The 1999 IHSA Cross Country Championships is brought to you by Country Companies Insurance. When it matters most, the country's behind you. And by Pepsi, the joy of cola. Once a year, they come from all parts of Illinois for a chance at gold and to fulfill a dream they have chased for many months, to be crowned champion.
Welcome to Detweiler Park in Peoria for the 1999 IHSA Boys and Girls Championship cross-country meet. It is an absolutely beautiful day here in Peoria. The skydivers, no problem in finding this park. This is the 30th anniversary of running the state cross-country meet here in Detweiler Park. Hello everybody, I'm Jim Blaney, along with Craig Virgin. It was 27 years ago on this course that Craig Virgin ran a time that still hasn't been touched. But Craig, the course conditions, maybe somebody can make a run at it today because it's warm and the track is hard and fast.
Well, if it's the first weekend of November, it must be Detweiler Park, and the kids running here today will have a memory that will last a lifetime. You're right, they couldn't ask for better conditions. We're starting out in the upper 40s. It'll probably be 60 degrees by the time the last two races are run. The conditions are hard and fast. The course is as good as anybody's ever going to get in Peoria in November.
And maybe the most important thing is because it's so warm, there is absolutely no moisture on this course whatsoever. We've seen in past years where even when the first couple of races go through in the frost, they can muddy it up a little bit, but that won't happen today. It's going to be fast for all four races.
The AA races will have a firm, fast track. I just think you couldn't ask for better conditions. It's really a matter of the pace up front in the first mile that's going to determine whether we can have a record today.
Our first race today is the Single A Girls, and it's an interesting race because Katie Lebracki has finished second twice in this race the last 2 years. Now she comes in, not necessarily as one of the favorites, but she has the experience. She's done well here before, and she knows if she runs this course well, she might be able to lead Woodstock-Marion Central to a state title.
Well, we've got several runners here today that have been second before a couple of times, and certainly they showed that they can be consistent, that they can run to their potential in the race, and that's very important in the state meet, Jim, because a lot of kids have trouble with the pressure. It's tough to defend. Sometimes I even think it's tougher to defend a title than it is to win the first time. But Katie certainly has incentive. She wants to go home with the gold medal this time.
And maybe the most important thing is Katie Lebracki has a teammate, Aaron Frakes, that should be running right in that lead pack with her to make things easier. Mindy Peterson from Taylor Rock Ridge, she's done well here in the past. She's the defending champ. Hasn't had as good of a season, but we all know when you get to the state meet, you can let it all hang out. So even though she hasn't had as great of a year as she had last year, she has to be considered one of the favorites as well.
We've got defending champions in both girls' races this year back. Neither one of them have been as fast and healthy as they were last year. Like I said, it's tough to perform the same or improve from year to year, but Mindy will give her a real battle, and I think we might be able to see a couple dark horses up front as well. It always happens in the state meet. It's tough for us to handicap all around the state because the sectional courses really are run on such divergent type courses. Some are hilly, some are flat. You really can't go on times. You have to go on character, on confidence, and the people that have shown that they can do it in the clutch.
And maybe the most important thing from the team standpoint is this. When you get down to Eureka, they're trying to do something that's only been done once in state history. Any class, anywhere, that is win a title in both the girls' event and the boys' event. They come in ranked number 2 in the girls. They'll be battling Woodstock-Marion Central for the state title.
Chrisman High School is the only one to have done that back in 1988. They won both the boys and the girls in the single A race. In the double A races, it's never been done. And we actually have a chance in all 4 events for that to happen. So we could see history today at Detweiler Park.
When we come back after this timeout, we will have the start of the 1999 Class A Girls Cross Country Championship race from Detweiler Park in Peoria. It was an absolutely perfect day here in Peoria as we begin the girls' single A race. Our temperature right now is about 55 degrees. It's expected to get up into the mid-60s by the time we have the double A boys race a little bit later on. The girls, they will run 2.5 miles. The only difference between the girls and boys races is the girls will not go on the north loop that adds the half mile to the course that the boys have to run to give them 3 miles for their total race. 2.5 for the girls. That change was made last year. So all the records for the girls in this event were obviously set last year.
And as a second-year record, Jim, I think that it's safe to say that they'll be soft for a while until we really get a couple runs on this state meet course.
Erin Frakes, the senior from Rock Ridge, she's running second right now. She is bib number 130, and at least at this point in the race, she has somebody out in front of her setting the pace for her, which is something you want if you're a favorite. You don't want to have to necessarily lead the race out of the chute.
Well, it's important to get down to the first turn in a comfortable position. If you want to finish in the top 10, you've got to be there so that you don't get cut off that first turn and jog in place.
Excuse me, Craig, that's Mindy Kuehl from Breeze Mater Dei that is leading right now. And talk a little strategy, Craig. Frakes is staying with her, not letting her get too far out, but it doesn't appear to be too concerned right now.
You can lose the race in the first turn, Jim. You just can't win it in the first turn. If you get out in the top 5 to 10 places and you don't have to break your stride and you can get around to the half-mile mark in good position, that's how you do well in this race.
Lindsay Zeiler, the sophomore from Massac County, is running third right now, and she has settled into that third spot. And this is where it squeezes down, right here through this turn, where the runners, they want to get a little space between themselves and the competitors nearest around them so they don't get boxed in going around that corner. And it appears that Erin Frakes so far has really run a textbook start of the race, Craig.
Well, and Mindy from Mater Dei has showed a lot of guts to go out. Mater Dei is from down in my part of the state in southwestern Illinois. She's looking strong right now, but we're going to have a lot of runners that come up the challenge in that front pack before the mile mark is over.
Frakes running first, Kuehl running second, and then third right now is Zeiler.
Frakes of Rockridge did win the sectionals. She was second in both the 1600 and the 3200 in the state meet last spring. So she does have good speed, and you want to always look at the state track meet last spring to kind of know who your favorites are coming into the Fall Classic.
You heard the splits being called out at the half mile in the neighborhood of 2:28.
Well, that's fast, but remember that this course is downhill for the first 400 meters, and it really lets you stretch your legs out and run. It's extremely easy to run a fast first 800 meters on this course, but of course you turn around, the second 800 meters is slightly uphill.
You see Lindsay Zeiler of Metropolis making her move right now, moving up into second place. Running fourth right now, that is Sarah Selby of Shelbyville. And she is also expected to be one of the contenders in this race. She has run a very clean first 3/4 of the mile, and she has herself in good position, but Erin Frakes has decided that she wants to lead this race, and she's staying right up there, running shoulder to shoulder with Zeiler.
Well, we have a good race so far. We've got about 4 to 6 girls that are in contention. Everybody's trying to get comfortable. They're trying to get efficient with their form. They're trying to work all the butterflies out. Now it's just time to run and let the instincts and the habits take over.
And we should also point out that the leaders are not necessarily pulling away from the field either. Everybody's staying in pretty tight, and certainly a long way to go in this one.
No, it's a good pace, but I would not call it an extremely fast pace. But there's certainly, again, 6 to 8 girls that are in contention based on the front pack that we have today.
There is Mindy Peterson right now, who has moved up into 4th place. And she is chasing down her Rockridge teammate Erin Frakes, who has now fallen into 2nd place as Lindsay Zeiler has taken the lead. So the move being made now by Mindy Peterson. She obviously saw an opening and she has decided to take it. And she has moved up into 3rd place right now. Sarah Selby from Shelbyville running in 2nd.
Well, we're now at the top of the course. We've now finished the uphill climb, and now the girls can get back into a faster cadence again, and you're seeing the pace pick up slightly here.
This is the part of the course too, Craig, where you can start to pick up a little speed. You head back downhill a little bit, and then you can slingshot coming in off the next turn and really start tearing down the hill. So if you can get some momentum around this tree right here, you can usually get a little bit of separation.
Well, as we come down by the highway, and we're going to be approaching the mile mark here if we haven't already hit it. It's about 4:50 on my clock, maybe 4:51, so we haven't quite gotten to it. But certainly this is the point in time when you want to establish your rhythm going down by the highway, use the downhill, get your speed back that you lost in that uphill ascent, and try to stretch things out.
And that is exactly what Lindsay Zeiler of Massac County is doing right now. She's making the stride longer, using the hill to her advantage, and she has built up probably, what would you say, Craig, about a 10-foot lead on Sarah Selby right now?
Selby and Peterson are still close there. They're within contact. This race is not over by any point in the imagination, and we'll see if the front-running tactics is going to work here for the Massac County runner.
5:33, the first mile in this race. 1.5 miles to go.
That's a good time. Certainly it won't compare with what the Class AA girls are going to run today, but it's a reasonable time and it keeps the race honest.
Lindsey Zeiler took over the lead in this race, just shy of 3/4 of a mile, and she has held the lead since. And right now, Sarah Selby chasing her, as is Mindy Peterson of Rock Ridge, and we've basically got ourselves a 3-person lead pack in this race.
Well, Peterson of Rock Ridge is the defending state champion, and as I said earlier, it's tough to defend. She has not been running quite as good this year as her teammate Frakes, but she has, again, when you come back here and you're the defending champion, you've got the mental confidence to know that you did it once before on this course, and it certainly helps.
This may be the key point of the race, too, for Mindy Peterson, because she looks like she's starting to lose touch with the two leaders.
Well, Selby has been dominant all season, and she's now making her move down here at about 1.25 miles into the race. She's now stretching it out. Look at that nice form. Look how she's carrying her arms relaxed on the side of her waist. She has good cadence, she has good rhythm. She's keeping her jaw and her face relaxed. She's not struggling at all, and that's why she's out in the lead right now by about 10 meters.
Sarah Selby, just a freshman. One of her teammates is her older sister, who's a senior.
Selby is now rounding the corner, checking for the second place or third place finisher, and now she knows that she has to focus for about 700 meters here. This is a long straightaway, especially if you're having trouble, but Selby is not having trouble today.
I like her discipline, Craig. She's never looked back unless she's coming around a corner.
That's the perfect place. You waste the least amount of energy, and also you don't show any sign of weakness to your opponents that way.
Well, she has shown no sign of weakness in this race ever since she decided to take the lead and run away from the field. Sarah Selby of Shelbyville, she has led this race for most of the way. She has a big lead now. All she has to do now is keep lifting her knees and pumping her arms, and she will cross the start-finish line as the state champion for the single A girls in 1999.
And Zeiler has pulled a little bit ahead of Peterson in this race. Zeiler is now making a move to secure second place and lock it down. She's only got about a 5-meter lead though, and there's still quite a ways to go. When you're within 10 meters of someone on this uphill finish, you can catch them if you're behind.
All 3 of the top 3 runners in this A girls race are part of teams as well, so it's very important that they try and jostle for the position. Selby in first, Zeiler in second, Mindy Peterson now putting on a kick, trying to catch Zeiler coming up the hill.
Zeiler still got second, but Peterson is not letting up. If you look behind, Peterson is now changing gears. Peterson could run down Zeiler in this stretch, but Selby definitely has the form and has the lead. She's got the padding that she can take all the way to the finish line.
Her unofficial time right now, 13:45. Remember the record, 15 minutes flat set by Mindy Peterson last year.
She's going to shatter this record today.
Well, Mindy Peterson is going to beat her own record and finish second or third.
Selby's coming into the finish line. She's looking strong. She knows that this has been a long, difficult season, but it is a rewarding victory.
Sarah Selby of Shelbyville, your champion in the girls Class A cross-country championship for 1999. Mindy Peterson, first 1 year ago. She will be second this year. And Lindsey Zeiler of Massac County is going to cross the finish line in third place. Winnebago takes the state title in girls Class A cross-country with a 98-point total. Eureka's dream of winning both the boys and girls title meets a sudden end with their second place finish. Marion Central third at 176. St. Joseph Ogden comes in fourth.
We had figured that we were going to have 3 in the top 15 when we came in, and we thought we were going to have others that were going to be in the range of 30 to 35. So it was a pleasant surprise. We didn't go as high as we thought we'd go. We got off to a bad start out of box number 5. So we had to come from way behind.
Sarah Selby again the champion in Class A for the girls, and what's interesting about these standings is it could be a preview of what we see here again next year. Stephanie Bone of Herscher, the 4th place finisher, is the only senior who finished in the top 5.
Were you ever scared as a freshman to take the lead that early in the race and just challenge the other girls?
No, I wasn't scared because I've run against these girls before about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I had the same strategy, and I talked it over with my father, and we executed that strategy really well.
Now it's time to get set for the boys single A state championship race. Mitchell Baker from Macomb, runner-up here 1 year ago. He is back, And it seems like we have a recurring theme, Craig. We have people who have been runner-up the last few years. They get a chance today to go out with state titles.
Well, you know, it's important to make the state meet as a sophomore if you can, or even a freshman, so you have 1 or 2 years of experience. And Baker has that under his belt. He's hungry to try to go home with a gold medal and not be the bridesmaid. But he's going to have some competition, you know, with Baker and Frankie out there. Frankie from Eureka, and they've seen each other a little bit in the regular season. Certainly they've got to be looking for each other today up the front immediately. I think we'll probably see them both together coming off that first turn.
We saw Stephanie Sims in the A girls race. Her brother David Sims is in the single A race. So they are running as individuals. They are not running as teams, but in the team competition in this race, Eureka trying to defend from last year, they are the odds-on favorites. Somebody has to go out and take it away from them.
Eureka's boys team has just been indomitable all season long. Like we said earlier, they want to do history. They want to be able to be the second team ever to win both the boys and the girls title. The individuals, of course, they still have to, Baker and Frankie have to run the best individual race they can. They know if they get first and they get 1 point, both their teams will be better off in the long run.
The runners are getting lined up in the chutes. When we come back after this timeout, we'll have the start of the boys A cross-country championship race. This is the start of the boys single A championship cross-country race for 1999. And remember, the boys race, unlike the girls, is 3 miles in length. There's a half-mile loop that is added onto the course for the boys to make up that extra half mile. And they go into the back part of the course. We cannot follow them there, so it's kind of like an Apollo mission where they go behind the dark side of the moon and we lose contact.
Well, I call it the Bermuda Triangle, Jim, because a lot of strange things can happen back there.
It's people go in, they don't come out necessarily.
Well, the boys have taken off rather aggressively. The one thing that I will say, the difference between the two sexes is that the boys really love to sprint down this hill, and we'll see at the half-mile mark just what kind of a chance they have for a course record. The course record is 14:18 by Troy Maddox in 1985. That was a very fine time then and was almost as fast as the AA boys.
And I can tell you this, just from the speed we're going in the truck, that this race is significantly faster than the girls A race we saw just a few moments ago. A lot of sorting out to be done in the field here in the early part of the race. Okay, we head back now to the downhill portion of the course. Mitchell Baker is your leader. Dustin Frankie running second. Paul Jalema, Villarana Christian is running third. And Bo Meredith from Macomb running fourth. A highly tactical race at this point.
Frankie is letting Baker set the pace somewhat. He's content to run off of his shoulder. That means he's got to be pretty confident on his ability the last half mile of this course.
11:04 as we head down the downhill stretch, the long downhill stretch here in Peoria. And
Jim, this is where I always wanted to gain momentum. I use this downhill to set up the pace to go back to a faster tempo after that uphill ascent. And this is where you want to get that fast last mile. You've got to use this downhill.
Mitchell Baker has the lead. Frankie staying right there, and now Bo Meredith hanging in there as well. Jalema now has dropped back to fourth. And Eureka is well on their way to a team title. Right now they're running 2, 6, 7, 8, and looking back into the pack about 11th.
Well, Macomb is going to have 2 runners in the top 4, but their 3rd, 4th, and 5th runners just are not as powerful as what the Eureka runners are.
So really, Frankie has 2 things on his mind right now. Number 1, I want to win, but number 2, don't do anything so foolish as you tie up and start dropping back into the pack because you have a team title to be concerned about as well.
Well, I don't think his finishing 1st or 4th is going to hurt their ability to win the state championship because they're just too dominant. They've got 5 guys in the top 10 or 12 right now. They've got it wrapped up unless a disaster happens. Right now, with 600 yards to go, maybe 800 meters, he's got to be thinking about winning this race, and we literally have a 2 and possibly a 4-person race.
Baker and Frankie running shoulder to shoulder. Jalema and Meredith now. The onus is on them to stay in the top pack.
I think at this point in time, Frankie and Baker are starting to pull away, and we're going to have a 2-person race coming now for the finish.
12:37, the split at 2.5 miles. Baker first. Frankie is second.
I want to remind folks that Frankie did win the 3,200 meter for the Class A race last year at the state track championship.
He had a marvelous state track and field championship. Mitchell Baker, of course, was second here last year. He wants to finish it out by becoming state champion. And as you mentioned, Craig, it's really somewhat turned into a two-person race. Now you saw Frankie sneak a look back over his shoulder. He now knows that it is only a two-man race, and it's going to be Baker and Frankie to decide the state title.
Well, going back to that state meet that you covered last spring, Frankie pretty much annihilated Baker in the last 200 meters of the race, so he has confidence in his speed and his kick. Now we'll have to see whether Mitchell Baker has gained some more speed since last spring.
Frankie's getting ready to make his move, Craig. He's shaking out his hands, making sure he stays loose. The sprint could come at any moment now, and Frankie has started to increase the pace just a hair, but Baker is staying right with him.
Watch the knee lift. The knee lift is critical to whether they can gain speed in this last 300 meters.
Baker ran to the inside of the post. He's staying shoulder to shoulder with Frankie. These guys are running side by side as we come down the last quarter mile.
This is a wonderful race. Baker is not giving in. Frankie has the superior leg speed. Baker is not giving in. He may be holding back for one more gear change.
Baker right now just trying to hang in, make one more push. Frankie looked back. There's no way he could see Baker because Frankie looked back over his left shoulder. Baker is back over the right, but it doesn't matter because Frankie is starting to pull away.
Baker's tying up just slightly. He's a little bit heavier in the legs and the arms. Frankie's lead now is up to 10 meters, and he's going to sail all the way into the finish line.
This will be the third time in 4 races on this course that Dustin Frankie has beaten Mitchell Baker this year. Dustin Frankie of Eureka is your state champion in the single A boys race in 1999. Mitchell Baker is second. Unofficial time, what, 14:40?
14:45 approximately.
Eureka blows away the field in the boys Class A team race, an incredible total of just 32 points. A distant second, Caneland at 155. Winnebago backs up the championship in the girls A by taking third in the boys Class A race.
We graduate our top 3 finishers today. Then we've got our 4th, 5th, and 6th are all sophomores, and you know, those kids, we had 2 of them were all staters today. Our 6th man wasn't too far off of it, and you know, we have a real good sophomore class, and you know, we've got some other good juniors in there. Our JV group was a real solid group this year, so we're looking forward to having them, you know, try and step up. And you know, the group we had this year has set an example. We had a great group of seniors that you know, they show the younger kids if you work hard, you know, what you get to look forward to.
So tradition is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Dustin Frankie leads the charge for Eureka, coming across the finish line first. Mitchell Baker of Macomb is second. We should see those two again at the state track meet coming up in the spring. Paul Jalema's third, Bo Meredith comes in fourth, and Trent Lehman of Eureka rounds out the top 5.
Dustin Frankie, Eureka High School. 26th place in the state meet in 1998, first in 1999. What's the biggest difference from last year?
Placing and the team thing, definitely the team thing, added up quite a bit. Running with a great group of guys like we have at Eureka, and just every meet I had guys on my own team pushing. Even if it was a small meet, the guys were pushing me.
It continues to be an absolutely spectacular day here at Detweiler Park. This is the 1999 IHSA Boys and Girls Cross Country Championships. Jim Blaney and Craig Virgin bringing you the next race, which is the AA girls race. And Craig, maybe not the best race coming up, maybe not the fastest, but this should be the most competitive of all the races we're going to see today. We've got the defending champ Ann Gaffigan back. We've got the runner-up from last year back as well. This should be a great race.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the course record will go simply because of the conditions, and the course has only been 2.5 miles now for 2 years in a row. So I think the record from last year is fairly soft. And Gaffigan, of course, is our defending champion, but she battled mono last spring and a quad injury this fall. She's rounded into shape late in the season. As a defending champion, she's very tough mentally. I think she'll be a factor, but she's going to be pushed by the fastest girl on paper, Victoria Jackson, who's run extremely well, and of course, our second place runner-up from last year, Katie Hartman, who will not want to leave here without having a word about who's going to win this race.
Rachel Endress and Samantha Pollock from Wheaton North, they are also in the individual fight, but they also lead what is probably, at least on paper, the best team. However, York has an outstanding girls team this year, and they're trying to double up, win both the boys and the girls. The girls have to come through because the boys are such prohibitive favorites.
Well, and it's never been done in the AA division. We've never had a team win both the boys and the girls race. And with the history that York is trying to make today, that would certainly be something more to put a feather in their hat.
This should be a great one. The AA Girls Championship race coming up after this timeout. Welcome back. Time now for the AA Girls race, and at this time we'd like to remind you the broadcast rights for this event have been granted to Fox Sports Net and Intersport Television by the Illinois High School Association. Any reproduction or rebroadcast of this event without the express written consent of Fox Sports Net, Intersport Television, and the IHSA is prohibited. Remember, we're back to a 2.5-mile race now. This is the Girls AA State Championship. Last year was the first year they ran this race at 2.5 miles, so the top times ever in this event are all from last year, and we should point out that Ann Gaffigan and Katie Hartman are back again this year in this race.
And Gaffigan's course record was 14:03. I'm positive it's going to be broken this year.
As we have seen in the two earlier races, this track is extremely fast. It's dry, it's hard, and the runners can really take advantage of it.
Jim, they haven't had rain in over a month here, and that's really contributed to the speed that this course will have. But the fact that the record is soft, because it was only run last year, it takes the girls maybe 4 or 5 seasons to really get a record. But I think that eventually they're going to go to 3 full miles for the girls and have the same distance for the girls race as the boys. I really hope they go that direction.
If you're running a marathon in the Olympics for women now, there's no reason not to take the race up to the same distance as the boys.
I think it would be probably a step forward for the girls to convert to college then, because they do run 4 and 5 mile distances in college. And also it really makes it a distance race. The 2-mile race let the 800-meter runners really stay in contention. It was a big difference last year simply going from 2 to 2.5. Right now, Katie Hartman is maintaining about a 10-meter lead over Victoria Jackson. I'm really, really shocked by this.
Yeah, she's starting to take the lead and increase it a little bit. Again, Katie Hartman running first, Victoria Jackson is second. Then there's a separation of about 35 yards before you get back to the second pack of runners.
Katie Hartman is actually gaining some more. She might even be up to 12 to 15 meters. And look at her cadence. Look at the number of steps she's making. She's actually turning over her legs much faster than what Victoria Jackson is, and is up now to a full 15-meter lead.
Craig, I have to admit, I'm kind of surprised. If Victoria Jackson was going to make this thing close and be right on the back of Katie Hartman, this would have been the part of the course to do it on.
You want to use the downhill to come up to the shoulders, and you want to think if you've got superior speed that you're neck and neck at the start of the last drive. But right now, Katie Hartman is executing just flawless race strategy from start to finish, and is holding a 10 to 15-yard margin on Victoria Jackson. It may be up to 20 meters now.
She is coming up on 2 miles into the race. The split right now, 10:55, 10:56, 10:57, 10:58.
She'll be right at 11 minutes.
2 miles, right at 11 minutes.
My goodness, this is really a surprise. She has 25 meters at this point in time, and I'm looking at her arms and her shoulders, and there's just absolutely no sign of tension at this point in time.
Well, this is where we saw her last year, but you know what? She's changing the ending right now.
Now
Less than half a mile to go for Katie Hartman.
Her stride is shortening. That could be either meaning that she's trying to get to an efficient stride to keep her cadence, or she's starting to feel tired. You know, one of the things that you do to get ready for either an uphill or to run through the fatigue is to shorten the stride and make it quicker, and that's what Katie Hartman is doing today.
Katie Hartman has opened up an absolutely huge lead on Victoria Jackson as we come up on a quarter mile remaining in the Girls AA Cross Country Championship for 1999. Right now, it's not even a two-person race. Right now, it's Katie Hartman's race to win. She sneaks the look back over her left shoulder to see where Jackson is, and now she knows that Jackson is way back there. If she can just climb this hill, she will be a state champion.
What we're talking about, Jim, is peaking. Katie Hartman has executed a perfect season strategy. She has peaked at absolutely the best weekend, which is the state weekend. It doesn't matter what happened in sectionals. The state meet is a whole new day, and that's why, as Joe Newton said coming into this meet, they don't run this race on paper. You still have to execute on race day, and Katie Hartman is showing that she has emerged as not maybe one of the top 3 favorites, and she is going to steal this thing today.
And working on a state record as well for 2.5 miles in cross country. Ann Gaffigan's record from 1 year ago, 14:03. We're at 12:36 right now.
Katie Hartman is just amazing me that she has gotten to the race at this point and looks this good. There is no way she's going to lose the race right now short of falling down.
You know what, Craig? She just flat ran away from everybody. That's what she did.
Well, she evidently had a game plan to be at the lead by the bottom of the hill and let the other girls worry about themselves. She must have had splits she wanted to get, and she hit them all. And in fact, I don't think that she's done anything this season that would lead us to predict that she could pull this off. This is just amazing.
Katie Hartman now has about 200 meters to go.
She is currently with about a 30-meter lead over Victoria Jackson, who's been unbeaten all year. Victoria's probably saying, what did I do wrong this race?
13:27 the time, the state record 14:03.
It's not that Victoria lost this race. Katie Hartman just went on and won it.
Absolutely. Katie Hartman can now see the finish line in sight. 13:41, 13:42.
She's going to annihilate this record today. It'll be in the 1350s.
Katie Hartman of Woodstock High School, your champion. She has the highest number in the field, but she's first across the line. 13:53 is the unofficial time. The Schaumburg Saxons win the Class AA girls title by 13 points over York. Naperville North and Lake Forest both check in with 178-point totals. Last year's champion, St. Charles, finishes in the top 5.
Well, last year at the state meet, I brought all those kids down, and we talked about, we watched awards, and we talked about the only thing that's separating us from them is hard work. And if we dedicate ourselves, we can definitely be down here again and be in the hunt for a trophy.
Katie Hartman, with essentially a wire-to-wire performance of Woodstock, claims the individual title. DELILAH DICRESCENZO of Queen of Peace, just a junior. She's the top threat coming back next year. Victoria Jackson finishes out her high school cross-country career with 3rd at state.
Victoria Jackson beat you by 25 seconds. Tell me, did the thought ever enter into your mind today that, gosh, I shouldn't be beating her because she just trounced me last weekend? I mean, how could you just get up like that?
It has. Last week was, it wasn't a very good race for me, I don't think. I didn't feel very good about it, but anything's possible.
The AA boys, the headline event of the day, they get to run in the warmest part of the day, and what's an absolutely beautiful day here at DETWEILLER Park. Craig, York, York, York. That's all anybody is talking about here. Whether or not Joe Newton retires after the day is over, we don't know that as of yet, but let's start with what we know for sure. That is, York is by far the strongest team, and you talk about guys trying to get it done in their final race. Donald Sage is senior. He's been runner-up twice. He's the odds-on favorite in this race. There's no doubt about it.
Well, we'll deal with the individual race first, and that is Don Sage, after being a runner-up to George Torres twice, really wants to go home with the title. When you look back at winning the 2-mile and the mile, or the 3,200 and 1,600 meters in the track championships last year, he showed me a lot of character. He showed me that he's ready to be a champion on his own up here, and certainly for his coach. He wants Joe Newton to go to retirement if Joe does choose to retire with both the individual and the team title. Now, for Don to help with that, he really just simply has to win the race. But bottom line is, I don't know whether he can break my record or not. It's going to take a very, very fast first mile of at least 4:30 for him to be able to take a shot at either running sub 14 or close to my record of 13:50.
13:50 and change. Now, for York to win this race, all they have to do is do what they did in the regional. 23 points in a regional. That's absurd.
York has a possibility of putting 3 individuals in the top 10 or 12 today, and if they can do that, but as Joe Newton knows, on paper is one thing, executing is another. I mean, last year they lost the race mainly because of some faulty execution in the first turn. They've got to run a perfect race, even though on paper they're a prohibitive favorite. Also, Don Sage has got to worry about Ryan TEISING, and they've never raced this year. TEISING doesn't have any lack of confidence because he's never run against him. And as usual, there will always be an individual or two that could sneak in there and give Sage a battle. But basically, when you get down to it, Don Sage will probably intimidate the field in the first mile. If he does, then it's a race against the clock for the record.
And the key thing is Donald Sage is going to have plenty of help in the race because he'll have a lot of people around him. The AA boys race is coming up after this timeout. Okay, it is now time for the AA Boys Championship. Let's take a look at the best times ever put up on this course in this event. Tom Graves of Sandburg, 13:56 in 1977, followed across the line that year 4 seconds later by Jim Spivey. We should point out that the reason why you don't see Craig Virgin's name on that list is because he won this event as a single class event back in 1972 at the state record time of 13:50. Donald Sage, Craig, 9th best time last year.
You know what, interestingly, he has the same time as Jim Spivey, the great runner from Fenton that went on to make several Olympic teams, 14:16. Jim Spivey ran 14 flat his senior year. We'll see how Don goes.
And if he indeed is going to make a run at Craig Virgin's record, he's going to have to get out clean, get out fast, and run against the clock.
He's going to have to be under 4:30, well, 4:30 or under to have a shot at sub 14 minutes.
And the other thing is, too, is he's really going to have to count on his teammates to push him.
Here we go.
Excuse me, Craig. Last year in this race, George Torres had the help of having Sage push him to that 14-minute flat time.
What remains to be seen is whether Sage will have someone push him in the second mile the way that he did with Torres to set out that to set up that 14 flat race. The field is kind of splitting. There's a big gap in the middle. Don't know why it's like that, but now they're starting to come over. Now it's closing. There must have been an empty box.
The Dukes of York looking for their 20th state title under Joe Newton, and the story was that this was going to be Joe Newton's last year. Well, now that's kind of up in the air, depending on what happens in this race today.
Joe made a commitment to his boys that if they won this meet and gave him his 20th victory, he'd come back for at least 1 year. We'll wait and see how he still feels.
The rabbit in the field is Chris Bosworth, a sophomore from Lake Park.
It's a young man from East St. Louis that's out there also.
And Paul Kulisek from Woodstock is also out at the front of the pack. The Dukes of York, what they have done is they have stayed out of the traffic. They are far over to the left. And Donald Sage is, well, I'm having a hard time picking him out. I see Sione back there in the pack, but I haven't been able to pick out Donald Sage as of yet. Paul Kulisek of Woodstock, of course, his schoolmate, Katie Hartman, was a winner in the girls AA. And now the Dukes of York make their move to the outside. Peter Sione trying to get clear of the field. And right off of his shoulder, another one of the York runners, number 93, is Adam Roach.
Emmanuel Wilborn from East St. Louis is number 565, who was in the state finals in the 2-mile last year. He doesn't have the help of a really strong team to train with, but he's from down in our area. Really the strongest area besides the Chicago suburbs is that Metro East area in southwestern Illinois in terms of depth of competition.
We are 2 minutes, 15 seconds into the race as we start to make the big turn and start to come uphill for the first time. The Dukes of York are all running in the top 15 at this point. Donald Sage is back, about 20 people back into the pack.
I believe this is Amison, number 20 from Centralia, who was a 4:14 miler. He's an unknown factor because he doesn't have to face Don Sage during the season. Of all the people to come up and surprise Don Sage, Amison was one of my picks.
Don Sage battling his way through traffic. He's about 15 people away from the front of the race, but he is making progress and starting to pick people off and move up to the front. His teammate Peter Sione is right with him.
We're coming up to the 2-mile mark at this point in time. We'll try to get a split. My split was around 9:16 for 2 miles.
You know what, Craig, he might get pretty close. 8:57.
Remember that we are going uphill.
The crowd cheering him on. 9:06, 9:09, 9:10, 9:11, 9:12, 9:13, 9:14, 9:15. He's got a shot.
9:18. He made up some ground in that second mile. He probably ran faster in the second mile than what he did the first. He's looking very controlled right now. His arms are good. His foot plant is good. His legs are coming through very strong. He's got a good arm drive. You've got to do that on this hill to be able to make up the pace.
Well, not only is he chasing Craig Virgin's record, he's chasing Craig Virgin.
In the pace truck.
Craig's about 30 yards in front of Sage at this point. Maybe tying up a little bit as he comes around this turn.
He's grimacing. He's paying a price for driving up that hill. Keller still back in second. I think Amundsen is still in third. It's really difficult to tell from this far out.
Because Donald Sage is so far out ahead right now, shaking out his arms, trying to stay loose. Well, Craig, you were wondering how he would be running against the clock. He is obviously making an attempt at running against the clock right here.
Well, again, without having seen him during the regular season, he's grinding it out. Now, this is where he was shoulder to shoulder with Torres last year, and he had someone to gauge off of, someone to push off of. There's no one here that's doing for him what he did for Torres last year. He's got to race the clock.
We found out later on after the girls' single A race, the winner had said, I had to keep running hard. I saw Craig Virgin in front of me. Well, Donald Sage doing the same right now. And what's interesting here is the way this race is shaking out with Keller in second. He just needs to keep up and keep close because you never know what might happen.
Well, my pre-race prediction for him was somewhere between 14:04 and 14:08, and I'm pretty much holding to that.
10:52, 10:53, he's going to be just a little bit under 11.
He's got to push now just to be under 14 minutes. I don't know, I can't tell yet. His rhythm looks good. He slowed down for about 100 meters and now he's coming back. Don is reaching down. He trained all year for this race. He's been a bridesmaid twice. This is his time to shine.
And he has everyone in the crowd cheering for him. They know he is making an attempt at running the best time ever by a schoolboy runner in the state of Illinois.
Don's legs are a little bit heavy right now. I see his upper quads. He's having to muscle his way to try to maintain this pace. Keller again still back in second, almost 100 meters back behind Sage.
11:40 the time.
Amundsen is no longer in third place.
And that's TEISING in third.
TEISING is in third. Ryan TEISING again did not face Sage and was undefeated, I think, coming into this meet as well.
We have a couple of other York Dukes running 4 and 5 right now.
York has the capability of putting 3 to 4 runners in the top 12. It'll be a challenge now because Eureka put 4 guys in the top 10. It'll be a challenge to York to see how much they can group up front as well.
And again, they had 23 points in their regional meet last week. Sage looking back, just double checking. Now what he has to do is just put the pedal to the gas.
Don Sage cannot afford to look back anymore. Right. The race is to the finish line. The race is against the clock. He wants to put his place in history in the record books here in Illinois. He wants to have one of the top 5 or 6 fastest times ever run on this course.
Unofficially 12:30. What do you figure, Craig? At best about a minute to run the last quarter to have a shot?
Well, he's about 500 meters out right now.
He's still going to be close.
I don't think he's going to be under 14, but I could be surprised. We'll know by the time we get about 100, 200 meters out, I'll be able to make a better guess.
He's right at 12:50 right now.
He's definitely pushing fatigue. I can see it in his face. I see it in his jaw. I look at his eyes. His forehead is wrinkled. He's focused. He's given it all. This is his final trip up the home straightaway in DETWEILLER Park.
By the way, he's winning this race by a good 100 meters right now. 13:14, 13:15.
Don Sage is going to be an excellent champion for the state of Illinois. He'll have the fastest time run on the course today. It's just a matter of how close to 14 minutes he's going to get.
13:30. 13:50 is the state record. 13:56, the AA record.
TEISING is closing on Keller in second place. TEISING is going to give Keller a run for his money. We're 100 meters out.
13:45. He will not get Craig Virgin's record today, but Donald Sage working at going under 14. Donald Sage is your AA champion after 2 years of disappointment, finishing second. He is the champion in 1999. 14:02 is the unofficial time. The York Dukes make it look easy in capturing Joe Newton's 20th state championship. How in the world do you score 24 points at a cross-country meet? Easy. Make sure your 5 runners all finish in the top 10 as the Dukes did. Schaumburg finishes second, Lockport third, Evanston fourth. Downers Grove North rounds out the top 5.
They surprised you with the plaque. After 46 years of coaching, what did it feel like?
It felt like a $1 million bonus. I mean, they completely tricked me. I was kind of talking to my guys and kind of ignoring. I said, well, they got some presentation. I'm not paying attention. And then when I heard them say my name, my heart fluttered, and it was just such an emotional thing that to be recognized by the peer group, by the IHSA, was just marvelous. It was like icing on the cake. I was just thrilled to death.
You cracked the door for the boys, and you said, boys, if you win this last one, I might stay around for another year. What's the final decision?
Well, I used the Michael Jordan, Greg, 99% retired, 1% maybe. And when the boys confronted me after the conference meeting and said, Coach, you can't leave. You got to stay, the junior boys. I said, if we win the state, I'll come back. And they did it, so I'm coming back.
Donald Sage wins the AA title by 21 seconds over Tim Keller of West Chicago. Dan Trainer of Freeport was third, Brendan Gaffney fourth, Adam Palumbo fifth. It's going to be a lot of new faces next year as all of the top 5 are seniors.
With a time of 14:03, it wasn't quite your goal, yet it still leaves you right up there among the top 8 to 10 with a place in history in Illinois. How do you feel about that, and do you think about the tradition at York and the tradition of Illinois cross country?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's been so many great distance runners to come out of Illinois and stuff. I'm just happy to say I could be a part of that. And the time of 14:03, I was definitely happy with it. I was hoping to maybe break 14, but I can't be disappointed. It's just been a great day.
What a wonderful day of racing at Detweiler Park, as it almost always is. Craig, your record is safe for another year, and maybe even longer, because most of the gentlemen in the AA race won't be back. They were seniors this year, but one of the things everybody's going to start talking about now is it turned out not to be Joe Newton's last year. He'll be back for 21 next year.
I'm sure people are going to talk about this for weeks to come. Don Sage gave him a wonderful present. First place, the individual title, the first time that's happened for York since Jim White in '84 when they won the team title and the individual title. The guys behind him supported him wonderfully. Wonderful team score, and again, Joe has to feel that I'm going to stay for another year or two and see what happens. He could add his legend. Who knows?
Joe's no fool. One of the reasons he's sticking around is because York's going to be loaded again next year. Our Pepsi moment from this year's 1999 IHSA Cross Country Championships, Katie Hartman of Woodstock. Last week had all sorts of problems in her sectional, got down here, just put her mind to it, ran a great race, wins it going away.
I will use her as an example for years to come. The fact that she got beat by 25 seconds by Victoria Jackson last weekend, got her head screwed on straight, trained hard for a week, and came out and had the biggest upset of the day today.
At this time, Fox Sports Net would like to thank H. David Fry and Jim Flynn at the Illinois High School Association for making this championship event possible. We'd also like to thank Chris Perry of Peoria High School for his cooperation in the coordination of this event. For Craig Version, this is Jim Blaney saying so long till next year from Detweiler Park in Peoria. The proceeding has been an exclusive presentation of Sports Channel Chicago Association.